I deem it a matter of pride that I am in my alma mater in the midst of this august gathering. I propose to dwell on a subject which is not really an area of my expertise, but I would talk on the teachings and philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi and its relevance in the world of today. I've deliberately picked this topic because even though, as I said, it is not a subject of my expertise, I do feel that its relevance today is extremely critical, more than any time before. I would like to begin with what the great scientist Albert Einstein said about Mahatma Gandhi, and I quote, "Generations to come will scarce believe that such a one as this ever in flesh and blood walked upon this earth," unquote. This most appropriately describes the kind of person who I believe is born in the whole world probably once in 500 years or maybe 1,000 years. Mahatma Gandhi, the undisputed leader of our independence movement, is not only remembered for his pivotal role in India's fight for freedom against British colonial rule, but also for the deeply profound philosophical principles that he gave to the world. His life and teachings transcend national boundaries, offering universal lessons that continue to resonate and reverberate even today. I would at the outset like to point out that I do not intend to look through the lens of hindsight while commenting on the topic that I have chosen. Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy was deeply influenced by his personal experiences, his readings, and his commitment to the ethical treatment of all people, regardless of caste, creed, race. His core ideas of non-violence, ahimsa, truth, satya, self-reliance, swadeshi, and the importance of social and economic justice are as much relevant in the modern world of today as they were in his time. I will in the next few minutes try to briefly dwell on Gandhi's key teachings and philosophy, emphasizing their continued significance and applicability in today's global society. However, I have to admit with a sense of anguish that his teachings are not really practiced or followed in letter and spirit, much to the peril of the citizens of the world today. The most important and at the heart of Gandhi's philosophy was the concept of non-violence or ahimsa, as he referred to it. For Gandhi, non-violence was not merely a normal thing, but it was a fact and a way of life which he practiced, and it was deeply rooted in the understanding of human interconnectedness and spirituality. Gandhi believed that non-violence was the supreme law of the universe which governed both individual conduct and collective actions. Simply put, in the words of Gandhi, an eye for an eye only ends up making the world blind. There is no doubt that violence leads to counter-violence. We see this today in the Russia-Ukraine and in the Israel-Palestine conflicts, which have resulted in the killing of thousands of innocent people. As we saw it in other different conflict zones the world over, it is, however, a matter of some relief that after the ceasefire has been signed between Israel and Palestine, there is some relief. It also shows that conflicts can only be resolved by resorting to dialogue. That is exactly what Gandhi said, and I quote, "I object to violence because when it appears to do good, the good is only temporary. the evil it does is permanent, unquote. For Gandhi, the concept of violence went beyond mere physical harm and included both mental and emotional violence. For Gandhi, it was not only to refrain from harming others physically, but also to avoid violent thoughts, words, and feelings. The radical rethinking of nonviolence as a holistic approach to life marked a profound shift from the traditional notions of power, which usually relied on coercion and domination. Gandhi once said, and I quote, "Non-violence is not a garment to be put on and off at will. Its seat is in the heart, and it must be an inseparable part of our being," unquote. In the world of today, non-violence continues to be a powerful tool for social change. Right from the civil rights movements in the United States, led by figures like Martin Luther King Jr., to modern-day campaigns for justice and human rights, the philosophy of non-violence remains a beacon of hope. In an era earmarked by conflicts, wars, and political polarization, Gandhi's insistence on non-violent resistance offers an alternative to the prevailing model of violence and militarism. I personally believe that if we had followed the path of violence during our freedom struggle, we would have lost a far greater number of precious lives during the course of our freedom movement. Non-violence, in fact, also has relevance in the modern context of environmental sustainability. The exploitation of natural resources, much of which leads to ecological damage, is often justified by a philosophy that views nature as something to be controlled and used for human gain. Gandhi's belief in non-violence also extended the natural world, urging humans to live in harmony with nature, respect all forms of life, and cultivate a sense of responsibility towards future generations. Moving from ahimsa, Gandhi's commitment to truth or satya was another cornerstone of his philosophy. He often stated that truth is God and that the pursuit of truth was the ultimate goal of human life. For Gandhi, truth was not an abstract concept, but something that must be lived, practiced, and experienced. His approach to truth was deeply practical and meant that one must continually strive to speak the truth and act truthfully, besides aligning oneself with the truth of one's own conscience. Gandhi's commitment to truth was not limited to personal integrity only, but extended to the broader social political sphere. Gandhi believed that the moral fabric of society can only be sustained when individuals and governments adhere to the principles of truth. His insistence on transparency, honesty, and accountability in both public and personal life challenged the political elites of his time and continues to be most relevant even today. In an age of widespread misinformation, fake news, and governmental corruption, Gandhi's emphasis on truth remains a vital lesson for building trust, justice, and integrity in political and social systems. That is why Gandhi said, "Truth stands even if there is no public support. It is self-sustained, and there is no God higher than truth." Thirdly, the principle of self-reliance or Swadeshi was central to Gandhi's vision. Both personal and for national liberation. The Swadeshi movement, which Gandhi led as part of Indian independence struggle, was not just a call for boycotting foreign goods. It was a broader call for economic and cultural independence. Gandhi believed that true freedom could only be achieved when individuals and nations took responsibility for their own economic and social well-being. If I may clarify, Gandhi's self-reliance was not about isolationism, but about empowerment. He saw economic independence as essential for a nation's dignity and sovereignty. The Swadeshi movement encouraged the revival of traditional industries such as hand spinning and hand weaving as a means of both creating employment and reducing dependence on foreign goods. Gandhi's call for a return to simple, sustainable living was grounded in the belief that excessive materialism and consumerism were harmful to both the individual and the community. In today's world, the principle of self-reliance is especially relevant in the context of global economic inequality, environmental degradation, and the rise of multinational corporations. Gandhi's emphasis on local economies, sustainable practices, and equitable distribution of resources provides an antidote to the excesses of global capitalism, or may I say, crony capitalism. Moreover, in a world where economic dependence often perpetuates cycles of poverty and exploitation, his advocacy for self-reliance serves as a reminder of the importance of economic justice and sustainability. Yet another defining feature of Gandhi's philosophy was his commitment to social and economic justice. He worked tirelessly to address the exploitation and discrimination faced by the lower castes, particularly the Dalits, whom he called Harijans, or the children of God. Gandhi's efforts to improve the lives of Dalits and his advocacy for their inclusion in society were groundbreaking given the entrenched social hierarchies of the time. In addition to his work for social justice, Gandhi was deeply concerned with economic justice. He recognized the structural inequalities that existed within society and believed that a just economy must prioritize the welfare of the poor and marginalized. This included promoting fair wages, access to education, and better working conditions, as well as addressing the concentration of wealth in the hands of a few. Today, the quest for social and economic justice is more urgent than ever before. The world continues to grapple with systemic inequalities related to race, gender, and class, as well as economic disparities that affect billions of people. Gandhi's ideas provide a moral and ethical framework for addressing these issues, emphasizing the importance of empathy, inclusivity, and the fair distribution of resources. In this context, I'm reminded of what he said once, and I quote, "The world has enough for everyone's needs, but not everyone's greed," unquote. Next, the concept of Swaraj, or self-rule, was a central part of Gandhi's vision for India and the world. For Gandhi, Swaraj was not just about political independence from British colonial rule, but about self-governance in the deeper sense of the term, and included spiritual, social, and economic self-rule. Swaraj implied that individuals should govern their lives according to moral principles and that communities should be self-reliant and self-organizing rather than relying on external resources. In today's globalized world, the concept of Swaraj can be interpreted as a call for greater local autonomy, decentralization, and a focus on community-led development. It stands in contrast to the concentration of power in different political economic centers, which often leads to alienation and disenfranchisement. In the face of environmental crises, social unrest, and political instability, Swaraj offers an alternate vision for organizing society, one that is more localized, equitable, and sustainable. Finally, Gandhi's philosophy was deeply rooted in spiritual principles. He believed that true peace could only be achieved when individuals cultivated inner harmony and spiritual growth. Gandhi's personal practice of meditation, prayer, and asceticism was central to his life. He viewed spirituality not as a separate sphere from politics and daily life, but as an integral part of life itself. He believed that a society built on principles of truth, nonviolence, and justice would naturally lead to peace. In the modern world, where many are seeking meaning amidst materialism and consumerism, Gandhi's emphasis on inner peace and spiritual growth offers an important counterpoint. The pursuit of material success often leads to stress, alienation, and disillusionment. Gandhi's teachings on self-discipline, mindfulness, and spiritual clarity provide a path towards deeper fulfillment grounded in compassion, nonviolence. Gandhi very aptly summed up his views by stating, and I quote, "Be the change that you wish to see in the world," unquote. In conclusion, I would like to say that Mahatma Gandhi's teachings and philosophy continue to have profound relevance in the modern world. His commitment to nonviolence, truth, self-reliance, social justice, and spiritual growth offers a comprehensive vision for both individual and collective well-being. As the world faces complex challenges such as conflict, inequality, environmental degradation, and political corruption, Gandhi's principles provide timeless guidance for creating a more just, compassionate, and sustainable world. In an age where technology and globalization are reshaping societies, Gandhi's emphasis on the importance of personal responsibility, ethical conduct, and the interconnectedness of all people remains as relevant as ever. His philosophy calls for a radical rethinking of how we live, how we interact with one another, and how we relate to the natural world. In embracing Gandhi's teaching, we can strive towards a world that is not only materially prosperous, but also spiritually and morally fulfilled. I would like to conclude my session in the words of Gandhi, who famously said, and I quote, "The future depends on what we do in the present." Thank you.